Russia's dream of a greater empire is not collapsing on the battlefield. It is collapsing on the highway. Right now, Russia is experiencing the worst road transport crisis it has faced in nearly 2 decades. This is not a technical issue, and it is not a temporary disruption. It is a systemic breakdown, and its consequences are reaching every dinner table in the country. In a nation that stretches across 11 time zones, trucks are not a convenience. They are life itself. When trucks stop moving, food stops moving. When food stops moving, shelves empty. And when shelves empty, the state begins to lose control. Today, nearly 7,000 road transport companies in Russia are on the brink of bankruptcy. This is not just a business failure. It is a national emergency hiding in plain sight. Road transport has become the last remaining lifeline for Russia's civilian economy. The railway network still exists, but it has been absorbed by the war machine. Trains that once carried food, medicine, and consumer goods now transport tanks, ammunition, and soldiers. Civilian cargo has been pushed aside. That left the highways as the only artery keeping the country alive. Now, that artery is being cut. Transport companies are being crushed from every direction. Fuel prices have surged. Maintenance costs have jumped by nearly 50%. Interest rates have climbed to a suffocating 21%. At the same time, freight rates have collapsed. Every kilometer driven now means another financial loss. Many companies are losing money simply by turning the ignition key. The final blow came from fuel shortages. Since early 2025, Ukrainian drone strikes have repeatedly targeted Russian oil refineries. Key facilities have been damaged or shut down, reducing diesel production across the country. Russia still has crude oil, but crude oil does not power trucks. Diesel does. As supplies shrank, prices exploded. What once cost 65 rubles per liter now costs close to 90. On the black market, prices climb even higher. A single long-haul truck requires up to 1,000 liters of fuel to operate efficiently. Filling a tank now costs tens of thousands of rubles in one payment. For many transport companies, this is simply impossible. Even worse, money no longer guarantees access to fuel. Civilian trucks are now restricted to purchasing just 200 liters of diesel at a time as the military takes priority. In a country of this size, 200 liters is meaningless. Drivers are forced to stop constantly, wait in endless lines, pay bribes, or buy fuel illegally. Deliveries that once took 3 days now take 10. Costs rise. Vehicles wear out. Drivers quit. Sanctions have delivered a second, quieter Udar. Russia's truck fleet was built on European vehicles: Volvo, Scania, MAN. Today, spare parts for these trucks are either unavailable or absurdly expensive. Half of the fleet sits idle, cannibalized for parts. One truck is dismantled so another can keep moving. Chinese trucks have filled the gap, but at double the price and with lower durability. In Russia's brutal winters, breakdowns are frequent. Leasing costs have become unbearable. Small transport companies are returning trucks and shutting down. The entire business model has collapsed. As transportation slows, prices rise. Butter has become a symbol of the crisis. Prices have surged so sharply that some supermarkets now lock butter in security cases. Potatoes, the food of last resort for the poor, are becoming unaffordable. Milk, eggs, flour, vegetables, all rising faster than wages. In the regions, the situation is even worse. Shelves are empty not because food does not exist, but because it cannot reach the stores. Large retailers prioritize Moscow and major cities, leaving smaller towns behind. Local officials blame weather, consumers, or foreign enemies. They never blame the war. At the borders, the situation is just as bleak. Russian trucks are effectively shut out of Europe. Goods that once crossed directly now travel thousands of kilometers through third countries, tripling prices. At the Chinese and Central Asian borders, trucks wait for weeks in freezing conditions. Factories sit idle. Medicines do not arrive. Spare parts disappear. Drivers are no longer available either. Many are at the front. Mobilization has drained the labor pool. The Army offers bonuses that bankrupt transport companies cannot match. Trucks rust in parking lots while their drivers die in trenches. This crisis is not new in Russian history. In 1990, the Soviet Union harvested record crops, yet 40% of that food rotted in the fields. Not because it was not grown, but because it could not be transported. Fuel shortages, broken trucks, and logistical paralysis helped bring down an empire. Today, Russia is repeating that same mistake. Production still exists. The problem is distribution. By feeding the war machine first, the state is starving the civilian economy. Empires do not always collapse under bombs. Sometimes they collapse quietly, in supermarket aisles, in empty shelves, and in hungry homes. And Russia's already standing in that line. Empires do not always collapse under bombs. Sometimes they collapse quietly, in supermarket aisles, in empty shelves, and in hungry homes. And Russia is already standing in that line. But the story does not end there. As trucks rust in parking lots and drivers are sent to the front lines, the people are left to navigate a growing shadow economy. Black markets flourish, goods become scarce, and daily life turns into a struggle for the most basic necessities. What was once taken for granted, bread, milk, vegetables, now requires patience, luck, or money that many simply do not have. This is not just an economic crisis. It is a crisis of trust, a breakdown of the social contract. Citizens see the war prioritized over their survival, and frustration is growing. The state may control the headlines, but it cannot control empty stomachs. And when the gap between leadership and people widens, unrest becomes inevitable. Yet, even in this darkness, the resilience of ordinary people stands out. Farmers find ways to deliver what they can, shopkeepers ration supplies, communities share what little is left. But these acts of survival are stopgaps, not solutions. The system itself, logistics, transport, distribution is collapsing, and no amount of individual effort can fill the void left by a state that has turned its arteries to the war machine. The lesson is stark. History has shown that empires crumble not only from foreign attack, but from internal decay. When infrastructure fails, when the basic flow of goods stops, when people cannot feed their families, even the most powerful regimes face a reckoning. Russia's highways have become a mirror of that reckoning. Every idle truck, every closed store, every empty shelf is a sign of a deeper collapse, one that no battlefield can mask. And as this quiet crisis spreads, it is not only the economy that falters, it is the very fabric of daily life, the connection between the state and its people. So, what comes next? Will the civilian population adapt, or will shortages spark broader unrest? Can the government restore the lifelines of transport and supply before the cracks widen into fractures? These are questions with no easy answers. But one thing is clear. The war may dominate headlines, but the real battle is already being fought along Russia's highways and in its homes. Thank you for watching. If you want to follow the unfolding reality behind the headlines, subscribe to Cooper Analysis. We'll continue tracking the crises that matter, even when the trucks stop moving. Stay informed, stay aware, and stay safe.